start with the first topic for today's session, that is what is Spring Boot. Now, if I have to explain you what is Spring Boot, then Spring Boot is basically a Spring module which aims to simplify the use of Spring framework for Java development. It is used to create standalone Spring-based applications which you can just run. So it basically removes a lot of configuration and dependencies and aims at rapid application development. So the Spring Boot framework comes with auto dependency resolution, embedded HTTP servers, auto configuration, management endpoints, and Spring Boot CLI. So if I have to summarize Spring Boot for you, then Spring Boot basically makes it easy to create Spring-powered production-grade applications. It takes an opinionated view of the Spring platform, and it is used to create standalone Java applications. So I hope that you've understood what is Spring Boot. It's just a Spring framework which is used for Java development. So on that note, let's look into the features of Spring Boot. So the features of Spring Boot are, as you can see on my screen, we have Spring Boot CLI, the starter dependency, the Spring initializer, the auto configuration, the Spring actuator, and logging and security. Talking about Spring Boot CLI first, basically the CLI allows you to use Groovy for writing Spring Boot applications and avoids the boilerplate codes. Coming to starter dependency, with the help of this feature, Spring Boot aggregates common dependencies together and eventually improves the productivity of your application. Moving on to Spring initializer, this is basically a web application which can create internal project structure for you. And moving on to the next one, that is auto configuration. The auto configuration feature of Spring Boot helps in loading the default configurations according to the project that you're working on. Coming to Spring actuator, this particular feature provides help while running Spring Boot applications. And finally, coming to logging and security, this feature of Spring Boot ensures that all the applications made using Spring Boot are properly secured without any hassle. So guys, these are a few features of Spring Boot, that is Spring Boot CLI, starter dependency, initializer, auto configuration, actuator, and logging and security. So now that I've spoken about the features of Spring Boot, if you ask me why do we need Spring Boot, then I would say these are a few points through which we can say that we need Spring Boot. As you know, Spring Boot provides stability. It is based on Java virtual machine, so you can basically connect to any Java project that you want to, and then you can have rapid application development in Java. It provides good connectivity with other technologies like all the web technologies or even the other databases like MySQL, PostgreSQL, Oracle, and so on. It's cloud native, it provides good flexibility, and is open source, right? So any of us can just install Spring Boot into our systems and then we can get started with it. On that note, let me tell you over here that Spring Boot can be used by any of us. So it can be a full stack developer or it can be a Java developer. So if you're someone who's trying to switch your career, or maybe you're looking for some skill that you want to enhance, then you can definitely get started with Spring Boot. As Spring Boot is one of the top technologies in today's market for application development. So a Java developer with knowledge of Spring Boot earns around $1 lakh. Similarly, the senior Java developer earns around $120, that is $119 that you can see on my screen. And full stack developer also earns a whopping amount of around $1 lakh. So that's a huge amount, right? So any of us can start learning Spring Boot. So on that note, let's take this session forward and understand the differences between Spring and Spring Boot. Now, as both of them sound the same, that both of them have the similar name, Spring and Spring Boot, these terms are often one of the most confused terms, as all of us think that both of them are same. But yes, there's a little bit difference in both of them. Talking about Spring first, Spring takes time to have the Spring application up and running, but whereas in Spring Boot doesn't take so much of time as that of Spring. It takes shorter time to run the Spring application. Coming to Spring again, Spring manages the life cycle of Java. But whereas in Spring Boot, if you use Spring Boot, then you do not have to worry about configuring your data source, as it provides auto configuration feature. Moving on to Spring again, Spring provides the dependency injection framework, as the Spring Boot has pre-configured set of frameworks and technologies. So if I have to just summarize the differences of Spring and Spring Boot for you, then Spring is basically a web application framework based on Java and provides tools and libraries to create customized web applications. Basically, it's more complex than Spring Boot and takes an unopinionated view. But whereas when we look at Spring Boot is a module of Spring and is used to create a Spring application project which we can just run or execute. Spring Boot is less complex when compared to that of Spring Framework and takes an opinionated view of the platform. So guys, I hope that you've understood the differences between Spring and Spring Boot. So on that note, let's take a look at the next topic for today's session, that is how to install and set up Spring Boot. Now, to install and set up Spring Boot, there are mainly two ways. That is, either you use the Spring Boot CLI or you use the Spring Toolsuite plugin in your Eclipse IDE or IntelliJ. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to install both of them. and then I'll show you how you can run your programs. Before I move forward, let's take a look at the system requirements for Spring Boot. So the system requirements for Spring Boot are as you can see on my screen. Well, the Spring Boot 2.1.7 release basically requires Java 8 plus version and a Spring framework of 5.1.9 plus. It needs explicit build support of Maven 3.3 version plus and Gradle 4.4 version plus, and also needs servlet container support like Tomcat 9.0 version, that is basically servlet version 4.0, the Jetty 9.4, which has basically servlet version 3.1, and Undertow 2.0, that is servlet version 4.0. So basically these are few system requirements that Spring Boot needs, guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to show you how to install Java, because for that you can refer to our sessions on Java. But yes, I'm going to show you how to install and set up Spring Boot CLI. So let's get started with installation and setup of Spring Boot CLI. Now to install and set up the Spring Boot CLI, you have to first download the Apache Maven and Spring Boot CLI from their respective official websites. So let me first download the Apache Maven and then we'll download the Spring Boot CLI. So initially what I'm going to do is I'm going to first set up the Maven and then I'm going to set up the Spring Boot CLI. So this is from where I'm going to download the Apache Maven, right? So you basically have to download the zip file. So the zip file is getting downloaded. So let's just wait for that to happen. And once the zip file gets downloaded, you have to extract the zip file to a specific folder. And then you can start setting up the Maven. So let's just wait for our folder to be installed. So let's just wait for the folder to be downloaded. Alright, so as you can see on my screen, my Apache Maven bin file has been downloaded. So what I'll do is I'll just copy this particular folder from here, and let's say I put it in my C directory, right? So let's say I just paste it over here, right? So let's just wait for that to happen. This is basically where I'm trying to unzip the folder. I'm just unzipping the folder and then I'm copying it to the C directory. Now, once the folder is downloaded, what you have to do is you have to basically go to my computer, right? So let's say I go to this PC, right? And then I right click over here. I go to properties. Now, once I go to properties, I have to basically go to advanced system settings, and then I'll basically go to environment variables, right? So basically, guys, this is where you have to add the environment variables for our Maven folder, right? So over here, I'll add basically two variables, that is m2_home and Maven home variable. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to new over here, and let's say I mention m2_home, and in variable value, what I'll do is I'll basically go to browse directory. I'll go to this PC and let's say I go to C file, right? And then what I'll do is I'll just choose Apache Maven and then I'll click on OK. So this is where I click on OK for M2 home. Similarly, I'll do the same thing for Maven home. So I'll again add new and then I'll mention Maven_home, right? And the variable value, I'll go to browse, I'll go to this PC, I'll go to C and then I'll choose Apache Maven and then I'll click on OK. Now, once I click on OK, we basically have to update the path variable, right? So to update the path variable, what I'll do is I'll just click on OK over here and then I'll search for the path variable, right? I'll go to edit option over here. And once I go to edit option, what I'm going to do is I'm going to append the Maven's bin folder to this particular path. So what I'll do is I'll just go to new and then I'll just go back to the folder. And then what I'll do is I'll just open this particular folder. I'll open the bin file, right? So I'll copy this particular section over here. And then what I'll do is I'll go to new over here. I'll paste it over here, right? And then I'll click on OK. Now, once that is done, what I'll do is I'll click on OK again over here. And then I'll click OK again over here. And now to check whether Maven is installed or not, we can just use the Maven version command. So for that, I'll open my command prompt. We just type in the command mvn-version. Right, so when I type in the command mvn-version, you can see that Apache Maven 3.5.2 has been successfully installed. So that's how, guys, basically you can install and set up Apache Maven. Now the next step is to basically download the Spring Boot CLI tool from its official website, right? So let's just do the same, right? So I'm just going to this particular website and let's say I download the 2.1.8 release. So when I click on the 2.1.8 release, let's say, I download the zip file of it, right? So I'll just download it and let's just wait for it to happen. And then again, similarly, we have to add a Spring Home variable in the Windows environment variables list. And then we have to update the path variable. So let's just wait for that to happen. All right. So as you can see, my Spring Boot CLI version 2.1.8 release has got downloaded, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to basically install this particular CLI. right? So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this particular folder, right? So it has all the bin files that you can see on my screen, right? So I'll go back over here, I'll copy, and then let's say, I put it in the C directory again. So I go to the C directory and then I paste. Now, once it is copied into the C directory, we'll again do the same. We'll go to the environment variables. So that's again, you go to Windows, you go to this PC, then you go to properties, and then you choose advanced system settings, and then you see this particular Windows, right? Over here, what you have to do is you have to add a new variable. So I'll just go to new again, and let's say I mention the name to be spring underscore home. Let me just mention the variable value. So for that, I'll just browse directory and then I'll go to the C folder, right? So for that, we go to this PC, then we choose C, and over here, I'll choose the Spring 2.1.8 release. And then I click on OK. Now, once that is done, again, you have to update the path variable. So I'll go to the path variable. I'll go to edit option over here. And then what I'll do is I'll add a new variable, right? So I'll go over here, right? And then what I'll do is I'll go back to the folder. I'll go to the bin file and then I'll copy this particular path and then I'll paste it over here. Right? After that, I'll click on OK. Then I'll click on OK again over here. Now to check whether the Spring Boot CLI is installed or not, we go to command prompt. Right? So let me just open a new command prompt again. And over here, let's go to the folder bin where I'd installed. So basically, if you see, I'd installed in C and then we have a Spring folder and then the bin folder. So I'll just come out of this particular directory and then I'll change to cd spring and then I'll change to bin. And now what I'll do is I'll mention the command spring hyphen version. So once I mention the command spring hyphen version, you can clearly see that Spring CLI version 2.1.8 release has been there. So that's how, guys, basically you can install Spring Boot CLI manually. Right now, if you have a project of Spring Boot, to execute the project using Spring Boot CLI, you basically have to use the command mvn spring boot run. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave that part to you. But yet, let's get back to our session and let's